My name is Ariel Sochill Hernandez, and I wrote She Who Speaks, Malincine and Indigenous Women During the Conquest of Mexico. My paper focuses on Malincine, also known as Malinche, and her portrayal in the Florentine Codex. I sought to deconstruct the dominant historical and cultural narrative of her as a traitor by looking at how she is actually portrayed in the colonial archive. In doing so, she also became a lens that allowed me to examine how other indigenous Mesoamerican women navigated the chaos of the Spanish invasion of Mexico and the generations of colonization afterwards.
Hi, I'm Jamie Fowleth, and I'm the author of Solutions to the Poor, which was my capstone research paper for the undergrad degree in history I received at Cal State LA. And the topic was Margaret Sanger. She's the founder of the birth control movement during the progressive era of American history. And I chose her because I think she's a really good example of the human messiness and complexity that we uncover when we research historic events and social movements in particular. Her movement was that she believed birth control was a way to lift the profile of America, but she believed that a white Protestant middle class values driven society was the best version of that. And she used eugenics to support this idea. So that was highly harmful to people of color, immigrants, and the poor. And yet on the flip side, access to birth control information and contraception did improve the quality of life for a lot of people who were struggling during the 1910s, 1920s. So I want to thank Dr. Thomas Alvarez for his guidance on this paper, and I want to thank Perspectives for including it in this volume. Thanks a lot.
In the presidential election of 1932. In particular, I'm looking at how Hoover and Roosevelt used gendered language and defined themselves in terms of manhood qualities that would make them good candidates to lead the country out of the Depression. My research methods were to look at all the speeches that the candidates give, analyze them for any gendered language that they use, and organize it around the themes that they seem to emphasize to create their narratives of why they had the right manhood qualities to become president. I was particularly interested in Roosevelt and why he was able to connect with the average voter as somebody that was not just sympathetic to, but could relate to their experience, and somebody that really had their concerns at heart, considering he came from a background of extreme wealth and privilege. It would seem like Hoover, who came from a very humble background, would be better equipped to make that claim than Roosevelt did. As I explored the speeches and what I hope to demonstrate in my paper, I learned that Roosevelt was very good at using gendered language to distance himself from his elite birth and his social class and his wealth and privilege. He was able to frame a narrative of manhood qualities that created a sense of shared experience with the average person, a sympathetic ear, and not just that he cared about what they were going through, but that he could relate to it, that he had experiences that meant he'd gone through the same things. And Hoover, by contrast, was completely unable to create that same bridge with the voters. I hope you enjoy my paper.
Hello, my name is Stone Peterson, and my essay is titled Neoliberalism by Any Means Necessary, United States Intervention in the Demise of Allende and Pinochet in Chile. My research focuses on U.S. intervention in Chile from the period leading up to Allende's 1970 election through the return to democracy in the 1990s. I argue that the United States government participated in creating similar conditions of economic and social discontent under both Allende's presidency and Pinochet's dictatorship, despite maintaining different stances towards each Chilean government. While officially the U.S. rhetoric condemned the democratically elected Allende as a Marxist and promoted Pinochet as a Cold War anti-communist hero, the U.S. economic goals remain consistent and harmful to both government stability. This essay ultimately seeks to explain the motives behind U.S. intervention during the two governments as economic above all else, with neoliberalism being pushed regardless of its detrimental effects to the Chilean population and therefore the stability of the government.
Go.
Hi, my name is Tara Kendall. I'm a master's student here at Cal State LA, and my article is entitled The Blackness of Blaxploitation, Race, Respectability, and African American Popular Culture in the 1970s. My article examines the black movie boom of the 1970s, more commonly known as blaxploitation. These films were often created in order to exploit black film audiences during a time of economic decline, but have since become known as a period when African American artists held more control over black narratives in popular culture. These films often utilize the symbols of both civil rights and black power in order to emphasize resistance to victimization, transforming how African Americans were viewed both in popular culture and in society at large. Thank you guys and stay safe.
In 2016, California voters repealed Proposition 227 and restored bilingual education after a 20-year hiatus. This research charts the rise and fall of bilingual education in California, what social groups were represented, and what issues were raised. In the civil rights era, bilingual education got its start at the federal level to aid English language learners to keep pace in the classroom. In the post-Vietnam War era, concrete bilingual education programs were established in classrooms with a busy period of judicial decisions and legislative remedies. Opposition began with the recession in 1981 and rising nativist sentiments. To some, language began to define who belonged and who did not. In 1994, Governor Pete Wilson would run a racially charged re-election campaign. Bilingual education was conflated with immigration, and nativists vented their frustrations.